I would like to tell you about the work I have now continued for 41 years in here. The 16th of May is 41 years since I started as student in the Sarup area on the southwestern part of Funen. It's not this one, it must be this one here. Den til højre? Det er det godt. And that's on Funen in Denmark, where we were starting 41 years ago, where I had the luck to find in causewayed enclosures, which we have the possibility to excavate until 84. We found the first causewayed enclosures here, 9 hectare in area. It was framed by palisade trench on ditches with a lot of materials. And in that causewayed enclosures, we found materials which could be dated to the Fugsberg period, about 3,400 calibrated BC. That's exactly the same period as we in Denmark are building dolmens, which you can see here. When I am talking about a dolmen, it's a Danish dyse. It means that it's a simple construction without a passage, but often with a very big capstones, which you will hear more about. We have the luck too that we found another causewayed enclosures here, only 3 hectare in area, from the Klintebakke period, from 3,200, exactly the same period as we in Denmark has built passage grave, which we have heard from Torben. On that you see a regular passage here covered with capstones. That's not the same as the more simple dolmens we see over there. In Denmark, we have under protection about 3,000 monuments, but we think we originally have had 30,000 megalithic monuments. It's curious that because we have had so many megaliths, we only have found human bone materials original placed in them in a very few, less than 10 megaliths. And what we found are for the most part only fragments of the humans, which for me to see look like that the human bones have been skeletonized outside the monument before only a fragment of the human was brought into the chamber. And in the passage grave, in 99% of the passage grave, we found much more bone, but they are 1,000 to 1,500 years younger as the reaction of the passage grave. And I think we have to think about what are we meaning with megaliths as burial places when only a small part of the human have been originally brought to the megaliths. And what are the other parts of the human? What have they been brought to which places? For example, to causewayed enclosures. Before we have started building dolmens and passage grave, we have had earth graves like this here, from Bark here on Bygtholm, which are 2 famous unchamber long barrels, which have a big palisade trenches, facade trenches in the eastern part on earth graves, and just we see down here. In this earth grave we had found the whole corpses. That is the whole dead person was brought in this chamber or this grave here, but never found in the megaliths. The Danish megaliths, because we have so little of big stones, have for the most part been destroyed. You see some pictures here. And when we are looking at the area today, megaliths often destroyed, demolished megalith would look like this here, where we found a concentration of sandstone, flagstone on crushed flint, the building materials, just as Torben just told you about, which was used there. You see here. And the flagstone over there, that's the fragment we found when we are making field working in the area. When we were finishing the excavation in Sarup in 84, it was my plan to continue in the area because I would like to see how is the settlement area look like around a causewayed enclosures, because we since 1880 had talked about what is the purpose with these causewayed enclosures. And I was looking at the files at the National Museum in Copenhagen, and there we have information about 4 megaliths, 2 preserved and 2 destroyed. We were then starting field working, visiting all the farmers, visiting amateur archaeologists, teachers, and all that. And by this work, we found further 120 megaliths, all the red spots in the area. So we were going from 4 to 120, 30 times more megaliths in this area. Besides that, we found a lot of materials from settlement from the Funen culture from the same period. And I would just like to show you some of the area. One here, Damsbo Mak, is down here. And what we found here was a long barrel with a chamber from a dolmen, very, very demolished. It could look like that. We have another single standing dolmen on a small passage tomb. Could have looked like that. We have another long barrels with a dolmen, which was here covering the house. 2 single-standing dolmens on a passage grave. On at another end, we have another long barrels from long dolmens with covering a house. It's so that within the last 5 excavations I have done in the area, I have always found houses under the megaliths. It has only taken me 30 years to learn to find the houses. It's very, very difficult to find Neolithic houses in Denmark. And we had just an causewayed too. We'll have a look at one of the megaliths which have been a round mound with a chamber of a passage grave inside here, and it had been disturbed in this area you see. It had been excavated by 24 layers of 5 centimeters, and what we found is first it had covered a house. But these houses are 200 years older as the erection of the passage grave. Then we have the chamber here, and we have a spiral of head-side stones surrounding the megalithic chamber. And I have found nearly the same in the Naus area, northern of Daus. We have a Tony Hall, Ogan have found a structure nearly very much the same, and we have it for Naus. I think it's number 4, side 4. We have very much the same there too, with this row of stones on even a pit in front of the entrance, just as we have a pit here in front of the entrance to the megaliths. What our interest too is that we close or in top of this layer of stones found deliberately broken pots, very well decorated pots, only a small fragment of them, but always with the handle of the pots placed on top of the offerings. And we have it from more 5 spots on these megaliths. This showed to me that the megaliths must, before it had been covered with a mound, there must have been a period, perhaps only a week or perhaps a little more, where they have had activities in the area before it all had been covered. Take another area very close to Sarup out there, and here we have found enclosures which we have down there with a very early megalithic dolmen of the schist type. We just see it more closely here. And it had been to these enclosures, which are nearly 60 meters long. There have been a lot of ceramics from the Fuchsberg period placed outside or inside the fence construction. What we found too that's a little too fast. We found two single-standing dolmens there and one there. And then we have a ditch system like this causewayed enclosure down here. And in the bottom of one of them, we found a very small dolmens, only 1 meter in measures. And close to it, in front of it, we found 150 shirts from a quarter of a pot, which deliberately was brought. Only a quarter of a pot was brought to to the small dolmen, and then it was there broken to pieces of about 3 by 4 centimeters, which isn't essential, but are deliberately made. When we are looking at the area, just again, we have then starting with a long monument, 2 single standings, and then finishing with a long barrow with 2 passage graves. And then we have other construction up here with more passage grave, and I know there are more megaliths in this area which we haven't looked for. We have taken another area here at Strandby. And what we found here is the rest of a dolmen. We have a long barrows here, first with a palisade trench or fence enclosed, and then with stone rows around it on a chamber here, and then we have another one, small chamber over here, on a bigger one there, on a big long mount, and then a single standing dolmen over there. When we are looking at one of them, we have the palisade trench, and in front of this palisade we found 2 ceramics from the Fuchsberg period, from the same period as Sarup 1. Then there have been a row of stones inside here. Then they have built a small dolmens here and placed a row of bigger stones, a curb here, and between these stones there was a lot of flagstones from the filling in between, and we have flagstone on the outside, on the inner side of it. On front of it we have ceramics from about 3,200 Sarup 2, and we have just the same over here, inside ceramic from 3,200, and here we have ceramics from about 3,000 BC. In my opinion, it's very clear there had never been any mound covering this construction here. It had been open for the whole period. Just what we see here. So I will see we have first a construction with a very simple dolmen here without curb. We have here a long construction, a palisade fence construction there. Then we have a single standing dolmen there. We get another dolmen here, and then a frame by big stones. And then we have a dolmen over here with a little passage, and then at last a bigger passage grave here with a very long barrow. And that was a real barrow still preserved there. Here there was no barrow, and it had been under the same condition by the farmers. So that's what I think could be of interest when we are talking about dynamic monuments. That is, that we have dynamic sites. We have, as you see here, starting with a long monument, 2 single standing dolmens without curbs and anything, and then a passage grave construction, the same here. We have it over here and there too. When I'm looking at other areas, that is the Sarup area, I will just show you here, because now we have get these lighter scannings, which are making archaeology much more easy, because certainly we began, it's only 20-30 centimeter height, these mounds here. And when you're looking at old photographs, you see construction here, or that is all megaliths, have preserved megaliths here, over here, and we have the rest of the causewayed enclosures down there. And here you just see the same again. A long barrow with a chamber, the still preserved, but 2 single standing, 2 more chambers there, 2 small megaliths here, on a bigger passage grave-like construction over there. It still haven't been excavated and will not be, I think. Then I have the opportunity to tell you a little about excavation which are still going on, where we were starting 3 years ago, and Funen is just 2 kilometers east of Sarup, enclosures there, and is construction from little earlier as that. You can see how well preserved the mound is. Only half a meter is preserved there, and we are there talking with the farmer, and he was very nice to us, so we could start excavation here, and we have the Sarup enclosures over there. Just look when we are taking the earth away, and then we are starting the excavation, where you can see the results as it looked 1 week ago. We have the rest of a long barrow here, which have been covered by a layer of head-side stones, and we have another, and it has been framed by posts, and we have another long barrels here, which have been framed by palisade trenches with an earth grave in the middle here. When we look at the first one, you see here under the excavation only where little are left because the farmer have been so deep plowing in the area. But we have found the rest of or not the rest, but very fine flint axes, which must come from an earth grave, but we can't see the construction of the grave so far. We have a lot of wattle and daub from which are very clear that we must have a settlement in the area. We have until now found 40,000 artifacts just for the most part in this area. And this take a long time to look through, but very good ceramics from about 3,600 before in Christ. When you look closer to it, we have a row of stake holes, which you're just seeing over there. We have a fence here, and we have another here. We have a pit here with a very good materials, our grain materials, which are now to analyze in Kiel, and I have heard this should be the best from the Funen culture so far. And we have in the west end a facade trench with a lot of stones, and two big stones, small megaliths when we are in Denmark, which you see there. We look closer to it, and here you see the post holes and big stones lying as dry stones over each other. We have over here too, and here we have standing them up, and it looks as if they have supported a very big very big post in a trunk in this area. And that is, for me, of interest that we see a connection between the very big trunks and the big stones in this monument. We are just looking at a little too fast. We're going to look at the second monument. Here we have a palisade trench running over there with a lot of good ceramics was placed in it, and we also found burnt bone materials, just the same as we have in the Sarup enclosure, where we have a lot of burnt bone materials, even human bones too. So that is of interest that they have had these rows of big posts. There have been some deliberate deposits of ceramics and bone materials. You see here from the other side, and we have a stone construction over there. That was the earth grave that we excavated last year in September with the help of Magdalena Midtley, who are one of the specialists in this type of monument, but she has never excavated one. But she was then helping us, and what we found here was a flint axe, another flint axe, and a third flint axe there, two of them found by Magdalena, transverse arrowheads, one here, bar-shaped amber beads here on a colored flask down there. And I calling it a forest worker from Funen because I wouldn't say that it's a chieftain or something like that. It's just a forest worker in this period where we are taking the forest away in Denmark. What is of interest too, that you see we have a frame around here from the kist. This type of grave are often in Denmark called for the Konens Høj type, which should be a tent-like construction with a big post here and big ones there. But we have the rest of a normal kist around here. And when you're looking at it as it looks now, I haven't finished the excavation. We have these two big posts here standing offset to each other, which means that they can't be part of the construction such as so. We are placing the pebble of the grave and the materials. I have one more. And here you see that these two big posts have been covered by the kist, and which, in my opinion, is very make it clear that the two big posts or trunks there had been removed or rotten away before the kist were placed on this place. The same we see in England, in Wayland Smithy, I think in Hattenham too. not Spain or other places, and we have it too in some Danish sites too. Just as Kongens Høje, we have the grave is just going down there. It's very clear, but not interpreted as so, that the post had been removed before the grave was placed there. That means that such a grave must have had a very long history, just as we see with the megaliths. And just to finish, we are continuing the excavation next Monday in a week, and there you can follow my excavation in the blog on the internet. I will say it's very good. I have had this blog for 2 years and have had 11,000 visits. So I hope that some of you making your very exciting excavation in Spain and Ireland and France, that you are making blogs and tell us about it so we can follow your excavations. You're just doing it with your phone, take pictures and some text, and then as when you are still exciting at the excavation, there you can hear my results. Thank you.